What's going on, everyone? Scott here. Welcome back to the channel. So, Michigan State football returns for their 11th game of the season on the road in Kinnick. Tough place to play against Iowa. 3:30 on Saturday, FS1. Now, Michigan State obviously coming in reeling quite a bit. 7 straight losses on the year. Iowa coming in off of 2 straight losses, but 2 straight losses to 2 teams that are essentially playing in a playoff game on Saturday in USC and Oregon. But both of those were one-score games, and then you look back on their schedule as well. They only lost to Indiana by 5 points as well earlier in the season. So and then Penn State, who we obviously just lost to, they beat Penn State. Obviously, they haven't had the season they wanted, but obviously they just beat us, so that's kind of a reflection. They blew out Minnesota, who we lost to as well, 41-3. So, you know, a decent Iowa season, if you will. And when we go through some of their stats, you'll see how that is reflected as well. But overall, you look at Iowa; they are currently sitting at 6-4, 4-3 in the Big Ten. So. Before we jump into this one, if you could just hit that like and subscribe button down there. We'll have more Michigan State football content on the channel, so just make sure to subscribe so you don't miss a video. So jumping in, we know what to expect when we think of Iowa. Winning the line of scrimmage, running the ball, and a top-tier defense. And that is essentially more of the same this year. You start with their quarterback, more of a running quarterback. So a little bit different than, some quarterbacks that they've had in the past, should I say. Mark Gronkowski, he has 1,200 yards passing, 6 touchdowns, 5 interceptions on the year, 64% completion percentage. Their running back room is led by Kamari Moulton, who has 612 yards, 2 touchdowns on the year. But speaking of how good of a running quarterback Gronkowski is, he actually leads the team with 13 touchdowns. So definitely something to watch for Michigan State on the defensive side. Is that quarterback pulling the ball, zone runs, whatnot, out of the backfield from the quarterback? It's not just the running back, Moulton, who has a solid year on the ground, but their quarterback can punch it in there as well. Now, you don't often think of wide receiver play when you think of Iowa, but Jacob Gill and Sam Phillip, over 200 yards on the year for both of them. Those are their leading pass catchers on the year. You look at their tight end, DJ Vanaheme. He has 166 yards on the year. And then you flip it over to the defense for them. Dominant per usual, their linebacker, Carson Shahar, leads the team, 63 total tackles on the year, 1 sack as well. Their defensive lineman, Aaron Graves, leads the team with 5 sacks on the year. Zach Lutmer, should I say, and Deshaun Lee lead the team with 2 interceptions on the year. As a team, they have 19 sacks on the year, 10 total interceptions. Wouldn't say those are crazy numbers for an Iowa defense, but they have obviously definitely held up and proves that they are still one of the top defenses in the Big Ten. Kicking obviously is important, could be important in a game like this, and they're 30 for 31 on extra points on the year, 17 for 22 on field goals. All their misses, though, have been from 30 and out. Mostly once you get into the 40s and 50s, you have a couple more of those, but their rushing offense, 44th overall, which obviously running game has caused troubles for Michigan State all year long. Their rushing defense, though, 16th overall. They're 6th in passing yards allowed as well. But when you flip it over to the Iowa offensive side, they are the 130th passing offense towards the bottom in the college football world. So, a couple things to look at those numbers, really. Michigan State, while they haven't got a consistent run game going, they've been able the last couple games to break some big runs. You go back to the game against the school down the road, you had the Mekhi Frazier break kind of down the left side, broke that for a long run. You look at the Minnesota game, they were able to break a couple explosives in that game as well. And then you look at Elijah Tolliver, the first offensive play for scrimmage from Michigan State last game out as well against Penn State, able to bust 57-yard touchdown as well. So looking to try to take advantage of that, it'll definitely be hard. Look, we're sitting where we're at. We've talked about the offensive line play for Michigan State, but when you couple that with a top defense in Iowa as well, struggling running the ball, more of the same could unfortunately be in store. But if you're able to, pop 1 or 2 of those explosive plays to put you in a good position, then, You have to be able to take advantage of that, and you're going to have to do that if you want to compete and win this game. And then I'm assuming it's going to be Alessio continuing. Obviously, we saw Aiden in a boot last week. Said it was, we'll see how he is during the week, but I think this will be Alessio's job the rest of the season. What happens beyond that, I have no idea, and that's a discussion for us once we get into December and kind of see where things are at. But I think Alessio will stay in there for the rest of the season. This game, and so can he get any time from his offensive line? 6th rated passing defense though, so they're going to need kind of what they got going with Aiden Childs in that Indiana game. It's going to have to be a lot of quick screens, smoke screens, whatnot, get the ball out of his hands quick because he is getting absolutely destroyed back there. And he is hanging in there tough. You have to give incredible credit to Alessio hanging in there in the pocket, taking the hits, still, delivering the ball the best he can. But they have to get the ball out quick to maybe kind of soften that defense a little bit. And then, maybe if you do that and you're able to pop 1 or 2, 2 decent sized runs, then maybe that can open up for a Nick Marsh, go ball, or a Omari Kelly slot and go ball, Kershawn McCray slot and go ball. But that's kind of what you're going to have to attack on offense. Get the ball out quick, keep the ball moving, and don't just funnel it into their incredible defense they have there in Iowa. On the defensive side, obviously it's easier said than done, but you obviously want to make the quarterback who has only, has not had that good of year passing the ball. You only have 2 receivers over 200 yards. Your quarterback, 1,200 yards on the year, 6 touchdowns, 5 interceptions. You want that guy to beat you through the air. But that's easier said than done, especially when Michigan State has severely struggled defending the run essentially all year long. Can you do that? Especially a tough place in Kinnick. Yes, it's not a night game in Kinnick, but it'll quickly turn to a night game in Kinnick. By the second half, it'll essentially be a night game there. Iowa, just some stats I always like to look at: 44% on 3rd down on the year, 4th down, actually 69% for them on the year. And like I said, kind of talking about this as we're going through here. We've seen flashes from Michigan State. We've seen it in the run game at times. We've seen it in the pass game at times. Defensively, over the last, I said it even last week too, that the defense, while it's still not perfect and it's not a complete performance, we've seen the most improvement from the defensive side of the ball. The energy they play with, I think the tackling has got better. There's still some busts, and kind of the Penn State game last week, if the offense was able to just extend, maybe 2 or 3 more drives and, get a touchdown, or at least, extend a drive another, 2-3 sets of downs, then, the defense would have been maybe a little more fresh, because once it got to the 4th quarter in that Penn State game, Penn State was just leaning on them with a long drive, touchdown, and then able to pop a long one as well, because they were out there for so long. So, forcing them into, yes, they have decent percentages on 3rd and 4th down. So you're just going to have to stand up, make stops there. Like I said, if you can try to make them, beat you through the air, then yeah, you're essentially selling everyone out. Let your corners go, secondary go one-on-one. Definitely still easier said than done. But given the struggles throughout the year, but I think that's probably the best game plan to go against this team here. But look, can you put it all together for a full game? As I said, we've seen pockets and different times that they've started to put stuff together here. Can you do it for a full game? Last year, the Iowa game was probably their best full game of the year, and probably the best full game of Jonathan Smith's career here so far throughout this almost 2 full years now. Can you put it all together? That was, incredible what we saw in Spartan Stadium last year. And this one, can they do it again? Possibly. But we'll see. Definitely going to be tough here in Kinnick. As I said, offensively, get the ball out quick. Screen games, got to pop 1 or 2 big plays, I think, in the running game and the pass game to get down there. Defensively, as best as you can, to try to hold up in the run game. Try to make them beat you, throwing the ball. And special teams got to be clean overall. Always important when playing Iowa and, in this game. But got to be clean, make your field goals, take advantage. when you get there. You want 7, but you got to assure yourself three there. But if you want to compete in this game and win this game, those are kind of the things, kind of the formula I think that they need to go about to try to get that done. And hey, listen, this is your 11th game of the year. Obviously, we are now sitting at 3-7. You're out of bowl eligibility, not happening. So I'm looking for their energy to come out early in this game and see, kind of who wants to be out there, right? Like, I haven't seen any quit from this team, even though they're on a 7-game losing streak. It was very easy for you to just check out of this thing. But I haven't seen that from anyone, pretty much anyone on the team, up and down so far, players, coaching staff, anything. So I'd like to see them come out with the same energy they have and, kind of continue that throughout the whole game, because they haven't put together a perfect 4-quarter game. I think, they've put together solid 3-quarter performances, mixed match performances, a couple quarters here, a little bit of this quarter, whatever. But, it's going to take a full game in this one. And listen, you got 2 more games left on this season. This one and then Ford Field next week against Maryland to close out the season. And, listen, I think we're going to see a lot more of the young players, obviously, going into that can still, preserve their red shirt and whatnot. So I'm looking for that, see what we got here. And yeah, but that's one of the biggest things for me is I'm curious how they come out and, kind of if they come out and can kind of throw the first punch and, kind of see what they can do to kind of stay level set in this game and, kind of keep it right there and see if they can make enough plays to make this a game at the end and possibly get one here in Kinnick as decent sized underdogs as well. As that'll funnel into our week 13 bets. Now, overall, we went 3-2 last week. So 29-25 on the year. Now we'll start out with our game as we always do. I'm actually taking Michigan State 16.5. I think that's a lot against Iowa. I don't think either team is going to score a lot. The under was calling my name too. I think the under is something ugly like 42.5. But I think 16.5 it is a lot in this one. So I'm not saying Michigan State's going to win this thing. I think there's an opportunity there, as I said, if they put all that stuff together. But I'm taking MSU plus 16.5. Next up, taking Oklahoma minus 6.5 against Missouri. Then I'm taking Virginia Tech plus 12.5 against Miami. I think Miami still wins that game, but Virginia Tech, obviously James Franklin just signing on to be the new head coach there. I think a lot of buzz. They have a lot of Penn State recruits going to Virginia Tech this weekend for this game. So I got Virginia Tech covering that 12.5. Then USC, I got plus 9.5 at Oregon. As I said, this is kind of a playoff game. Probably the winner of this game is securely in, the driver's seat to be in the playoff for this one. The loser essentially, might be out of this thing. But I think that's going to be a really good game there in Eugene. And then lastly, I got Pitt plus 2.5 at Georgia Tech. So that'll do it for this one. Obviously, we will be back with a recap for this one afterwards. But anyway, thank you all so much for watching. We'll see you in the next one. Peace out.